Sandra Miller pressed her face against the small window of the transport shuttle. The view outside took her breath away. The massive trade station sparkled like a jewel against the dark space. Thousands of lights blinked on its surface. Ships of all sizes came and went like busy insects around a hive. She had seen pictures of Zephyr Station before, but nothing prepared her for the real thing. The station was bigger than any city on Earth. It floated in space near a huge gas giant that glowed purple and gold. The planet was so big that it filled half the sky. Sandra checked her uniform one more time. Everything had to be perfect. She was not just any human today. She was Captain Sandra Miller, official representative of Earth. The weight of that responsibility sat heavy on her shoulders. The shuttle pilot, a young man named Pete, looked back at her. "First time to Zephyr Station, Captain." Sandra nodded. "First time this far from Earth, actually." Pete smiled. "Don't worry. The Zephyrians are fair traders. They might act superior, but they need what we have just as much as we need what they have." Sandra hoped he was right. Earth needed the rare minerals found only in this system. These minerals were essential for building the new colony ships. Without them, humanity's expansion into space would stop. The pressure to succeed in these talks was enormous. The shuttle docked with a soft bump. Sandra gathered her things and walked through the airlock. The first thing that hit her was the smell. It was clean but strange, like flowers mixed with metal. The air felt different too, thicker somehow. The docking bay was huge. Creatures from dozens of worlds moved around, loading and unloading cargo. Sandra saw tall, thin beings with blue skin and silver eyes. These were the Zephyrians who owned the station. There were also short, round creatures with fur covering their bodies. Others looked like walking plants or living crystals. Sandra had studied many alien species during her training, but seeing them in person was different. Some stared at her as she passed. Others ignored her completely. A few pointed and whispered to their companions. Humans were still new to this part of space. Earth had only made contact with alien civilizations 50 years ago. Most species saw humans as primitive newcomers. Sandra hoped to change that opinion, at least a little bit. She followed the signs to the main commercial district. The corridors were wide and tall, built to accommodate beings of all sizes. The walls showed moving pictures of products for sale and news from across the galaxy. Everything was clean and expensive looking. Sandra checked her schedule. The formal dinner with the Zephyrian High Council was tomorrow night. She needed appropriate clothing for such an important event. Her Earth-made dress uniform would not be suitable. She had researched the best clothing stores on the station before arriving. The Crystalline Boutique was supposed to be the finest shop on Zephyr Station. They specialized in bio-adaptive clothing that could adjust to fit any species. The garments were made from smart materials that responded to the wearer's body and environment. Sandra found the shop on the station's most exclusive level. The storefront was beautiful, with flowing designs that seemed to move like water. Through the transparent walls, she could see elegant clothing displayed on stands. Each piece seemed to glow with its own inner light. She took a deep breath and walked inside. The interior was even more impressive than the outside. Soft music played from hidden speakers. The air smelled like exotic perfumes. Holographic models showed how the clothes would look on different species. Several alien customers browsed the displays. Sandra recognized a few species from her studies. There was a family of Andromedans, tall and graceful with skin that changed colors. 2 Centaurians examined a rack of formal robes. Their 4 arms moved independently as they felt the fabric. Sandra approached the main counter where a Zephyrian was working. He was tall and elegant, with the silver eyes and blue skin typical of his species. His clothing was perfectly tailored and expensive looking. A name tag identified him as Vexthai, store manager. Vexthai was helping another customer when Sandra arrived. She waited politely, not wanting to interrupt. The customer was a large bear-like creature from the Asina system. Vexthai treated the alien with great respect, showing him the finest garments and explaining their features in detail. Sandra looked around while she waited. The clothes were beautiful beyond anything she had seen on Earth. Some seemed to be made of liquid metal that flowed like silk. Others appeared to be woven from starlight itself. The prices displayed next to each item made her eyes widen. Even with her diplomatic expense account, she would need to be careful. A young Zephyrian assistant noticed Sandra waiting. She approached with a friendly smile. "Welcome to Crystalline Boutique. How may we help you today?" "I need formal attire for a diplomatic dinner tomorrow night," Sandra explained. "Something appropriate for meeting with the High Council." The assistant's expression changed slightly when she heard Sandra's accent. Human voices were distinctive among the galaxy's species. "Oh, you are human. Let me get Manager Vexthai for you." Sandra nodded and continued to wait. She studied the other customers and how the staff treated them. Everyone received careful attention and respect. The assistants took time to understand each customer's needs and preferences. They offered refreshments and comfortable seating areas. The bear-like customer finished his purchase and left with several packages. Vexthai finally turned his attention to Sandra. His silver eyes looked her up and down, taking in her human appearance. His expression was neutral, but Sandra sensed something cold underneath. "You are human," he said. It was not a question. "Yes, I am Captain Sandra Miller, representing Earth and trade negotiations with your High Council." Vexthai's expression did not change. "I see. And you wish to purchase clothing from our establishment. I need formal attire appropriate for tomorrow night's diplomatic dinner. I was told this is the finest boutique on the station." Vexthai looked at her again, more carefully this time. Sandra felt uncomfortable under his gaze. It was like being examined by a scientist studying a specimen. "Bioadaptive clothing is very sophisticated technology," Vexthai said slowly. "It requires advanced understanding of biological systems and material science. I am not certain it would function properly with human physiology." Sandra had expected this concern. "I have documentation from Earth's medical division showing human compatibility with standard bioadaptive materials." She offered him a data pad, but Vexthai did not take it. Instead, he looked past her to another customer who had just entered the store. The new customer was a tall Zephyrian woman with jewels embedded in her blue skin. She wore expensive robes that shimmered with every movement. Vexthai immediately abandoned Sandra and rushed to greet the newcomer. "Lady Melandra, what a pleasure to see you again," Vexthai said with a deep bow. "How may we serve you today?" Sandra stood at the counter, still holding her data pad. She cleared her throat softly to get Vexthai's attention, but he ignored her completely. The Zephyrian woman looked at Sandra with curious eyes. "What is that creature?" Lady Melandra asked, pointing at Sandra like she was an interesting animal. "A human," Vexthai replied with distaste. "They are one of the newer species. Still quite primitive, I am afraid." Sandra felt her cheeks burn with anger, but she kept her voice calm. "Excuse me, I was here first. I would like to complete my purchase." Vexthai turned to look at her with cold silver eyes. "Humans should learn patience. It is not a virtue your species possesses naturally." Lady Melandra laughed, a sound like tinkling bells. "How amusing. It thinks it belongs in a proper establishment." Other customers in the store began to notice the conversation. A group of Andromedans stopped browsing to watch. Two Rigelian traders whispered to each other and pointed at Sandra. She felt all eyes on her, and not in a good way. "Please wait. Over there," Vexthai said, pointing to a small corner near the back of the store. "I will attend to you when I have time for lesser beings." Sandra's hands clenched into fists. She had trained for difficult diplomatic situations, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. The casual cruelty in Vex Thoi's voice made her stomach twist. "I am a diplomatic representative of Earth," Sandra said firmly. "I have proper credentials and payment authorization. There is no reason to treat me this way." Vex Thoi's expression grew even colder. "Credentials? Payment authorization?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Do you think we care about your primitive planet's paper promises?" The other customers were openly staring now. Sandra heard whispers and giggles from around the store. Some aliens had stopped shopping entirely to watch the show. "Humans always think they are more important than they are," said one of the Andromedans. "They discover space travel and suddenly believe they belong with civilized species." "I heard they still fight wars on their own planet," added a Rigelian. "How barbaric." Sandra wanted to defend her species, to explain that humans had made great progress in recent decades. But she knew that any argument would only make things worse. She was here as a diplomat, not a debater. Vex single quotes Thai guided Lady Melandra to the finest section of the store. "Now, my lady, let me show you our newest collection. These pieces are made from silk woven by the crystal spiders of Arcturus Prime." Sandra walked to the corner where Vex Thai had pointed. There was a small chair there, clearly meant for waiting customers. But it was positioned so that everyone in the store could see her sitting there like a scolded child. She sat down and tried to stay calm. Tomorrow's dinner was crucial for Earth's future. She needed that formal attire, and this was the best store on the station. She would endure the humiliation if it meant completing her mission. A security drone floated over to hover near Sandra. It was a small round device with multiple sensors and a speaker. The message was clear. She was being watched in case she caused trouble. "Security Drone 7 to Manager Vex Thai," the device announced loudly. "Monitoring potentially disruptive. Alien, as requested." More customers turned to stare at Sandra. A family of Centaurians moved their children away from her section of the store. The parents whispered warnings about staying away from the dangerous human. Sandra felt smaller with each passing minute. This was not how she had imagined her first major diplomatic mission would go. She thought about her training instructors back on Earth. They had prepared her for difficult negotiations, cultural misunderstandings, and even hostile aliens. But they had not prepared her for this kind of casual, public humiliation. Vex Thai spent the next hour helping other customers. He brought out the finest garments for each alien, explaining the materials and craftsmanship in detail. He offered refreshments and comfortable seating. He treated each customer like royalty. Every few minutes, he would glance at Sandra and make a comment to whoever he was serving. "You see how patient civilized beings can be," he said to a group of vegan merchants. "Unlike some species that demand immediate attention. The galaxy would be much more peaceful if certain primitive worlds learned their proper place," he told a wealthy Zephyrian couple. Each comment drew laughter from the other customers. Sandra felt like she was trapped in a nightmare. She checked her watch repeatedly, hoping this ordeal would end soon. A young Zephyrian assistant approached Sandra cautiously. She seemed less hostile than her manager, but still wary. "Would you like some water?" the assistant asked quietly. Sandra nodded gratefully. "Thank you, that would be nice." The assistant brought a small cup of water. It tasted strange, with a metallic flavor that Sandra tried to ignore. "Manager Vex Thai is very busy today," the assistant said. "Perhaps you could come back another time?" Sandra shook her head. "I need formal attire for tomorrow night. This is the only store on the station that has what I need." The assistant looked uncomfortable. "I understand, but ... She glanced around nervously. "Humans are not our usual customers. Manager Vex Thai prefers to serve more established species." "More established species?" Sandra repeated. "Species that have been part of galactic civilization longer," the assistant explained. "Humans are still learning how things work out here. Sandra understood the real meaning. Humans were too new, too different, too inferior to deserve proper treatment. The assistant was trying to be kind, but the message was clear. 2 hours passed. Sandra watched customer after customer receive excellent service while she sat in her corner like a piece of furniture. The security drone continued to hover nearby, reminding everyone that she was a potential threat. Her legs were getting stiff from sitting so long. Her diplomatic uniform felt wrinkled and uncomfortable. Worst of all, her confidence was cracking. She began to wonder if she was really qualified for this mission. Maybe the other species were right. Maybe humans were not ready for this level of galactic diplomacy. Maybe she should give up and find a different solution for tomorrow night. Sandra was about to stand up and leave when the boutique's front door chimed softly. Another customer was entering the store. The man who walked through the door was not what Sandra expected. He was tall but not imposing, with brown hair and calm blue eyes. He wore simple civilian clothes, a plain jacket and dark pants. Nothing about him screamed wealth or importance. He looked like any ordinary human, but something was different about him. The way he moved was quiet and controlled, like a predator who did not need to show his strength. His eyes swept the room, taking in every detail without seeming to stare. When those eyes found Sandra sitting in her corner, they paused for just a moment. The other customers barely noticed the newcomer. A few aliens glanced at him and then looked away, dismissing him as another unimportant human. Vexthai was busy with a wealthy Centaurian family and did not even look up. The man walked slowly through the store, appearing to browse the clothing displays. But Sandra noticed that his attention kept returning to her situation. He seemed to be listening to the conversations around him, understanding more than he let on. "Manager Vexthai," Lady Melandra was saying loudly, "you really should not allow primitive species in your establishment. It lowers the tone of the entire experience." "You are absolutely right, my lady," Vexthai replied. "Perhaps we need stricter entry requirements. Some beings simply do not belong in civilized society." The man stopped browsing and turned toward the conversation. His expression remained calm, but something cold flickered in his eyes. "I heard that humans still practice warfare," said one of the Centaurians. "How can we trust creatures that solve problems with violence?" "They are little better than animals," agreed another alien customer. "Give them a few more thousand years of evolution, and perhaps they might become civilized." Sandra felt tears of frustration building behind her eyes. She had spent years studying alien cultures, learning their languages, and preparing for this moment. None of it seemed to matter. To these beings, she would always be just a primitive human. The quiet man continued to move through the store. He examined a few garments, but Sandra could tell he was not really shopping. He was watching and listening, learning about the situation. A young Zephyrian couple walked past Sandra's corner and wrinkled their noses in disgust. "It smells wrong," the female said. "Human scent is so unpleasant." "I cannot understand why the station allows them here," her companion replied. "They bring down the quality of everything." Sandra's face burned with shame. She had showered and used the best human perfumes before coming to the store. But to these aliens, she would always smell wrong, look wrong, be wrong. The security drone floating near Sandra beeped loudly. "Attention, human subject showing signs of emotional distress. Increasing monitoring level." The announcement drew more stares from other customers. Sandra wanted to disappear, to find a hole to crawl into and never come out. That was when the quiet man made his move. He walked directly to Sandra's corner, ignoring the security drone and the stares from other customers. When he reached her, he stopped and looked down with kind eyes. "Captain Miller," he said in a clear, respectful voice, "I hope you are finding everything you need today." Sandra looked up in surprise. She did not recognize this man, but he clearly knew who she was. His voice was warm and friendly, treating her like an important person instead of a nuisance. "I am sorry, do we know each other?" Sandra asked. The man smiled. "Not personally, but I know of your work. You are here for the trade negotiations, correct?" "Very important business for both our species." Sandra nodded, not sure what to say. It felt strange to have someone treat her with respect after hours of humiliation. "I am Kane Walker," the man said, extending his hand for a handshake. "I was hoping to meet you during your stay on the station." The name meant nothing to Sandra, but she shook his hand gratefully. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Walker. Please call me Kane," he said. "And may I ask why you were sitting here instead of being served by the staff?" Sandra glanced around nervously. Other customers were starting to pay attention to their conversation. She did not want to cause more trouble. "I am waiting for assistance," she said carefully. Kane looked around the store, taking in the busy staff. "Serving other customers." His expression remained pleasant, but Sandra caught a hint of steel in his voice. "It seems like a very long wait," he observed. Vexed Eye finally noticed the conversation in the corner. He looked annoyed that the two humans were talking instead of sitting quietly. He finished with his current customer and walked over. "Is there a problem here?" Vexed Eye asked coldly. Kane turned to face the manager. "No problem at all. I was just greeting Captain Miller. She is here on very important diplomatic business." Vexed Eye's expression did not change. "Yes, the human has been waiting. We will attend to her when time permits." "I see," Kane said quietly. "And how long has she been waiting?" "Time moves differently for primitive species," Vexed Eye replied with a cruel smile. "They have not learned the value of patience." Kane's smile never wavered, but Sandra noticed his hands were very still at his sides. There was something dangerous about that stillness. "Interesting perspective," Kane said. "I have found that patience is often confused with disrespect." Vexed Eye's silver eyes narrowed. "Are you questioning my professional judgment?" "Not at all," Kane replied smoothly. "I am simply making an observation." The tension in the air was thick. Other customers had stopped shopping to watch the confrontation. Sandra wanted to tell Kane to leave it alone, to not make trouble for her sake. But something in his calm confidence made her stay quiet. "If you are not shopping, I must ask you to leave," Vexed Eye said firmly. "This is a private establishment." Kane nodded politely. "Of course. But first, I wonder if I might use your communication system. I need to make a quick call." Vexed Eye looked confused. "A call? To whom?" "To the owner of this establishment," Kane said. "I believe Lady Zaralyn would be interested in meeting Captain Miller personally." At the mention of Lady Zaralyn's Vexed Eye's expression changed completely. His confident arrogance dissolved into surprise and concern. "Lady Zaralyn?" he repeated. "You know Lady Zaralyn?" Kane's smile grew wider. "Oh yes, we are old friends." Vexed Eye's face went pale, his blue skin turning almost white. He stared at Kane as if seeing him for the first time. Around the store, other customers began to whisper among themselves. The name Lady Zaralyn carried weight in this part of the galaxy. You know Lady Zaralyn personally?" Vexed Eye asked, his voice much quieter than before. "We have worked together on several occasions," Kane said calmly. "She helped me acquire some items during my time in the Andromeda sector. Lovely woman, very intelligent businesswoman." Sandra watched the exchange with growing confusion. She had no idea who Lady Zaralyn was, but the effect of her name on Vexed Eye was dramatic. The arrogant manager now looked nervous and uncertain. "I am sure Lady Zaralyn is very busy," Vexed Eye said carefully. "Perhaps your call could wait until later." Kane tilted his head slightly. "Oh, I think she would want to know about this situation immediately. She takes customer service very seriously, from what I remember." The whispers around the store grew louder. Sandra caught fragments of conversation from the other customers. They were discussing Lady Zarelin in hushed, respectful tones. Clearly, this was someone very important. Vexed, they looked around the store, as if hoping for an escape. But Kane stood patiently, waiting for an answer. His calm demeanor somehow made him seem more threatening than if he had been angry. "Of course," Vexed finally said. "You may use our communication system. Right this way." Kane did not move. "Actually, I think it would be better if you made the call. You can explain the situation to Lady Zarelin directly." Vexthai's hands began to shake slightly. "Explain what situation?" "How Captain Miller has been treated during her visit to your store," Kane said simply. "I am sure Lady Zarelin would be interested to hear about it." The security drone that had been hovering near Sandra suddenly moved away. It returned to its charging station as if it had never been monitoring her at all. Sandra noticed that. Several staff members were now looking at her with worried expressions. Vexthi walked slowly to the main counter. His movements were stiff and mechanical, like a man walking to his execution. He activated the communication system with trembling fingers. "This is Crystalline Boutique calling Lady Zarelin," he said into the device. "We have a situation that requires your attention." The response came quickly. A holographic image appeared above the counter, showing a tall Zephyrian woman with elaborate jewelry and expensive robes. Even as a hologram, she radiated power and authority. "Vexthai," Lady Zarelin said in a crisp voice. "What kind of situation requires my immediate attention?" Before Vexthai could answer, Kane stepped forward. "Good afternoon, Lady Zarelin. Kane Walker here. I hope you are well." The holographic woman turned toward Kane's voice. Her expression changed completely when she saw him. Her formal business manner melted into genuine warmth and surprise. "Kane, what a wonderful surprise. I had no idea you were on Zephyr Station. How are you, my friend?" "I am doing well, thank you. I was hoping to speak with you about a small matter involving your boutique." Lady Zarelin's expression grew serious. "What kind of matter?" Kane gestured toward Sandra, who was still sitting in her corner. "I would like you to meet Captain Sandra Miller, Earth's diplomatic representative for the current trade negotiations." Lady Zarelin looked at Sandra with new interest. "Captain Miller, it is a pleasure to meet you. I have heard good things about Earth's negotiating team." Sandra stood up quickly and gave a small bow. "The pleasure is mine, Lady Zarelin. Captain Miller came to your boutique seeking formal attire for tomorrow night's diplomatic dinner," Kane continued. "Unfortunately, she has been waiting for several hours without proper service." Lady Zarelin's eyes turned cold as she looked at Vexthai. "Several hours? What is the meaning of this?" Vexthai opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked like a fish gasping for air. Kane's voice remained calm and polite. "I believe there may have been some confusion about Captain Miller's importance to the current negotiations, and perhaps some misconceptions about humanity's place in galactic commerce." "What kind of misconceptions?" Lady Zarelin asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. "Well," Kane said thoughtfully, "I have been considering which boutiques to recommend to the new human colonies being established in this sector. Earth's expansion program will create significant demand for high-quality clothing and accessories." Lady Zarelin's holographic eyes grew very bright. "New colonies? How many colonies are we discussing?" 12 planets in the next 5 years, Kane replied, each with populations expected to reach several million within a decade. All of them will need to establish formal diplomatic and business relationships. The numbers hit Lady Zarelin like a physical blow. Sandra could see the woman calculating the potential profits in her head. Millions of new human customers, all needing quality clothing for their new lives among the stars. "That represents enormous business opportunities," Lady Zarelin said slowly. "Indeed," Kane agreed. I have been asked to evaluate various establishments and make recommendations. Customer service quality will be a major factor in those recommendations. Around the store, other customers were listening with growing amazement. The Centaurians who had been mocking humans earlier now looked worried. The Andromedans whispered nervously among themselves. Vexthai finally found his voice. Lady Zaralyn, I can explain. The human was. Captain Miller was ... double quotes. Was what? Lady Zaralyn's voice could have frozen helium. She was waiting for proper assistance, Vexthai said weakly. Kane shook his head sadly. I am afraid that is not accurate. Captain Miller was told to sit in a corner while other customers received service. She was publicly humiliated and treated as if she were not worthy of basic respect. Lady Zaralyn's holographic form seemed to grow larger and more imposing. Is this true, Vexthai? Vexthai looked around desperately, but there was no escape. Every customer in the store had witnessed Sandra's treatment. Several of them were now backing away from him. I thought ... humans are still new to ... Humans. Our customers, Lady Zaralyn cut him off. Valued customers representing a growing market worth billions of credits. And you treated their diplomatic representative like garbage. The word billions echoed through the store. Sandra saw alien customers looking at her with completely different expressions now. Where before she had seen contempt and dismissal, she now saw calculation and interest. Kane placed a gentle hand on Sandra's shoulder. The question now is how to move forward. Captain Miller still needs appropriate attire for tomorrow's dinner. The success of those negotiations could determine humanity's relationship with this entire sector. Lady Zaralyn nodded firmly. Captain Miller will receive our finest service. Vexthai, you are relieved of your duties immediately. The store fell completely silent. Vexthai stood frozen behind the counter, his silver eyes wide with shock. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The other customers stared at the holographic image of Lady Zaralyn, waiting. See what would happen next. You are dismissed, Vexthai, Lady Zaralyn continued, her voice cold as space. Security will escort you from the premises. You will never work in any establishment I own or have influence over. Vexthai's legs seemed to give out. He grabbed the counter to keep from falling. Please, Lady Zaralyn, I have worked for you for 15 years. I have a family to support. I was only trying to maintain standards. Double quotes. Standards? Lady Zaralyn's holographic form leaned forward. What standards involve humiliating diplomatic representatives? What standards allow you to treat potential customers like animals in a zoo? Two security guards entered the store. They were large, professional-looking beings with stern expressions. They moved toward Vexthai with purposeful steps. Please escort this individual from all properties owned by Zaralyn Enterprises, lady. Zaralyn instructed them. He is no longer welcome in any of our establishments. The guards flanked Vexthai, who looked around desperately for support. But the other customers avoided his eyes. Even his own staff members turned away from him. This is not fair, Vexthai pleaded as the guards led him toward the door. I was protecting your business from inferior species. I was maintaining the quality of your clientele. Lady Zaralyn's expression grew even colder. My clientele includes anyone with the credits to shop here and the dignity to be treated with respect. You clearly do not understand either concept. The guards escorted Vexthai out of the store. Sandra watched him go, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and pity. She had not wanted to destroy anyone's career, but his treatment of her had been inexcusable. Now, Lady Zaralyn said, turning her attention back to Sandra, let us discuss how to properly serve our esteemed guest. The young Zephyrian assistant who had brought Sandra water earlier stepped forward nervously. My lady, I am Kira Lynn, senior assistant. How may we help Captain Miller? Kirillin, Lady Zaralyn said with approval, you will personally oversee Captain Miller's service. I want her to receive the finest treatment we can provide. Of course, my lady, right away, Kane smiled at Sandra. I believe you are in excellent hands now, Captain. Lady Zaralyn's staff are the best in the sector. Lady Zaralyn's holographic form turned to Kane. Thank you for bringing this matter to my attention, old friend. I shudder to think what damage Vexed Eye might have done to our reputation. I am sure you would have discovered the problem eventually, Kane replied diplomatically. Perhaps, but not before it was too late. Captain Miller, please accept my sincere apologies for the treatment you received. This is not how Zaralyn Enterprises conducts business. Sandra found her voice. Thank you, Lady Zaralyn. I appreciate your quick response to the situation. It is the least I can do. Kirillin, I want Captain Miller to have access to our finest collection. Spare no expense in creating the perfect ensemble for her diplomatic dinner. Kirillin bowed deeply. It will be done, my lady. Excellent. And Kirillin, I want you to document everything you do for Captain Miller. We will use this as a training example for all our staff. The assistant nodded eagerly. Yes, my lady. Should I also prepare information about our services for the human colonies? Lady Zaralyn's eyes lit up. Excellent thinking. Yes, prepare a comprehensive package. I want to be ready when those colonies are established. Around the store, Sandra noticed a remarkable change in the other customers. Where before they had stared at her with contempt, now they looked at her with curiosity and respect. Several aliens were whispering to each other, and she caught fragments of their conversations. 12 new colonies, ... Billions in potential business, ... Perhaps we should reconsider our attitude toward humans, ... A wealthy Centaurian merchant approached Sandra cautiously. Captain Miller, I am Trader Zelvos. I deal in luxury goods across the sector. Might I have a word with you about potential business opportunities? Before Sandra could answer, 2 more aliens approached. One was an Andromedan banker, the other a Rigelian shipping magnate. All of them suddenly seemed very interested in establishing relationships with humanity. Gentlemen, Kane said smoothly, Captain Miller is here on diplomatic business. Perhaps you could arrange meetings through proper channels after her current mission is complete. The aliens nodded respectfully and backed away, but Sandra could see them making notes on their personal devices. Word was already spreading about the human colonies and their potential value. Lady Melandra, the Zephyrian woman who had earlier mocked Sandra, approached with a nervous smile. Captain Miller, I hope there are no hard feelings about earlier. I was simply ... uninformed about your importance. Sandra looked at the woman who had laughed at her humiliation just hours before. No hard feelings, Lady Melandra. We all make mistakes when we don't have complete information. The woman's relief was obvious. Thank you for your understanding. Perhaps we could discuss trade opportunities between our worlds at some point. I will pass your interest along to the appropriate Earth authorities, Sandra replied diplomatically. Kirillin began leading Sandra toward the finest section of the store. Captain Miller, let me show you our premium collection. We have garments made from the rarest materials in the galaxy. The clothes in this section were even more beautiful than what Sandra had seen before. Each piece seemed to be a work of art, combining function with incredible beauty. The fabrics felt alive under her fingers, responding to her touch with subtle color changes. This robe is made from Andromedan silk, Kirillin explained, showing Sandra a flowing garment that seemed to contain captured starlight. It adapts to the wearer's body temperature and adjusts its opacity based on lighting conditions. Sandra tried on several outfits, each more impressive than the last. The bioadaptive technology was remarkable, automatically adjusting to her human physiology. The clothes felt like they had been made specifically for her. What do you think of this one? Carolyn asked, showing Sandra a formal dress that combined earth elegance with alien sophistication. Sandra looked at herself in the mirror and gasped. The dress was perfect, making her look both professional and stunning. The fabric seemed to enhance her natural coloring while maintaining appropriate diplomatic formality. "It's beautiful," Sandra said, "but I should ask about the price. There is no charge, Captain Miller," Carolyn said quickly. "Lady Zaralyn insists that you accept this as a gift with our compliments." Kane nodded approvingly. "A wise business decision. Goodwill toward Earth's representatives will pay dividends in the future." As news of Sandra's treatment spread through the store, more customers approached her. Shop owners from other levels of the station began appearing, hoping to introduce themselves to the human diplomat. Sandra found herself at the center of attention, but this time in a positive way. "Captain Miller," one alien merchant said, "I have heard that humans appreciate quality furniture. My family has been crafting luxury items for centuries. Perhaps we could discuss furnishing some of your new colonies." The transformation was complete. In just a few hours, Sandra had gone from being treated as an unwelcome primitive to being courted as a valuable business connection. The next evening, Sandra stood in front of her hotel room mirror, adjusting the beautiful dress one final time. The Andromedan silk caught the light perfectly, making her look both elegant and powerful. She felt different wearing it, more confident, and ready for the challenges ahead. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Sandra opened it to find Kane standing in the hallway, wearing a formal black suit that made him look much more impressive than his casual clothes from the day before. "Good evening, Captain Miller," Kane said with a smile. "You look absolutely stunning." "Thank you," Sandra replied. "And thank you again for yesterday. I don't know what would have happened without your help." Kane's expression grew serious. "May I walk with you to the dinner? There are some things you should know before you meet with the High Council." Sandra nodded and stepped into the hallway. They walked together toward the diplomatic section of the station, their footsteps echoing softly in the wide corridors. "Kane," Sandra said as they walked, "I have to ask, who are you really? Yesterday you seemed like just another human traveler, but clearly you're much more than that." Kane was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. "I suppose you could call me a troubleshooter. I handle difficult situations for Earth's government, usually quietly and without much publicity." "What kind of situations?" "The kind that require a personal touch," Kane replied. "Yesterday's incident at the boutique was not just about poor customer service, Sandra. It was a test." Sandra stopped walking. "A test? What do you mean?" Kane turned to face her. "Several alien factions have been watching Earth's expansion into this sector. They wanted to see how humans would react to discrimination and hostility. Would we fight back? Would we give up? Would we demand special treatment? And what did my reaction tell them? That humans have dignity and patience, but also that we protect our own," Kane said. "You handled the situation perfectly, maintaining your composure while standing your ground. And when someone stepped up to help you, you accepted that help gracefully." Sandra felt a chill run down her spine. "So you were there on purpose?" "I was keeping an eye on the situation, yes, but my intervention was real. No one should be treated the way Vexthay treated you, test or no test." They resumed walking toward the diplomatic section. Sandra's mind raced with new understanding. The events of yesterday had been more significant than she realized. "What other tests should I expect?" she asked. "The dinner tonight will be the real challenge," Kane replied. "The High Council will try to determine if humans are ready for full partnership in galactic affairs. They'll be watching how you handle yourself, how you negotiate, and how you represent our species." They reached the entrance to the diplomatic dining hall. The doors were massive, carved from some kind of crystal that glowed with inner light. Guards from several species stood at attention, their weapons clearly visible but not threatening. "One more thing," Kane said quietly. "Don't be surprised if Lady Zaralyn has spoken to the Council about yesterday's events. Word travels fast in diplomatic circles." Sandra took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. "I'm ready." The dining hall was magnificent. The ceiling was transparent, showing the stars and the glowing gas giant beyond. Tables were arranged in a complex pattern that seemed to accommodate dozens of different alien species. The air hummed with conversation. In 100 different languages, a tall Zephyrian official approached Sandra. "Captain Miller, welcome to the diplomatic dinner. I am Council Secretary Veltar. The High Council is eager to meet with you." Sandra followed Veltar through the crowded hall. She noticed that many conversations stopped as she passed. Aliens turned to look at her, some with curiosity, others with newfound respect. The High Council table was positioned at the center of the hall. 5 Zephyrian leaders sat there, their elaborate robes and jewelry marking them as the most powerful beings. On the station, they watched Sandra approach with intelligent, measuring eyes. "Honored Council," Veltar announced. "May I present Captain Sandra Miller, diplomatic representative of Earth." The eldest council member, a woman with silver hair and ancient eyes, gestured for Sandra to sit in the chair across from them. "Captain Miller, we have heard interesting reports about your visit to our station." Sandra sat carefully, making sure her dress fell properly. "I hope my presence here has been appropriate." "Honored Counselor." "More than appropriate," the woman replied. "I am High Counselor Zaralyn." Sandra's eyes widened slightly. This was Lady Zaralyn from the boutique, but clearly much more important than Sandra had realized. "You seem surprised, Captain Miller," High Counselor Zaralyn observed. "I had not realized that Lady Zaralyn of the boutique was also High Counselor Zaralyn of the ruling council." The High Counselor smiled. "I believe in staying connected to all aspects of our society, including commerce. It gives me a better understanding of how different species interact with our people." Sandra began to understand the full scope of yesterday's events. The boutique incident had been observed by one of the most powerful leaders in the sector. "Your composure during yesterday's unpleasant incident was noted and appreciated," High Counselor Zaralyn continued. "It showed us important things about human character." "What kinds of things?" Sandra asked. "That humans have patience but not weakness. That you seek fairness but do not demand special treatment. That you support each other when necessary but do not become aggressive without cause." Another council member leaned forward. "We have been discussing Earth's request for mining rights in our system. Initially, we had concerns about humanity's readiness for such responsibility." "And now?" Sandra asked. "Now we see that humans may be more mature than we initially believed," the counselor replied. "Your species shows promise for true partnership, rather than mere cooperation." High Counselor Zaralyn opened a datapad and began reading from it. "We are prepared to offer Earth mining rights to 3 asteroid belts in our system, with a renewable 20-year contract." Sandra tried to hide her excitement. Earth had only hoped for 1 asteroid belt and for a 10-year term. "Additionally," the High Counselor continued, "we would like to establish formal trade relationships with the 12 new colonies Earth is planning. We understand they will need many goods and services as they develop." Sandra glanced around the room and spotted Kane sitting at a table near the back. He raised his glass slightly in a subtle toast, his expression proud. "These terms are very generous," Sandra said carefully. "May I ask what changed your minds?" High Counselor Zaralyn smiled. "Yesterday's events showed us that humans handle adversity with grace and strength. Today's negotiations have shown us that you seek fair agreements rather than trying to take advantage. These are the qualities we value in long-term partners." Sandra felt a surge of pride, not just for herself but for all of humanity. "On behalf of Earth, I am honored to accept your generous terms. Excellent, the High Counselor said. Let us celebrate this new partnership. As the evening continued, Sandra found herself surrounded by alien dignitaries, eager to establish relationships with Earth. The same species that had dismissed humans as primitive now competed for her attention and Earth's business. Later, as the dinner wound down, Kane appeared at her side. Well done, Captain, he said quietly. You've helped secure humanity's future in this sector. Sandra looked around the room at all the aliens who now treated her with respect and interest. It's amazing how quickly things can change. That's the thing about reputation, Kane replied. It takes time to build, but once established, it opens doors across the galaxy. Sandra smiled, thinking about her journey from humiliation to triumph in just 2 days. I think I'm beginning to understand how things really work out here among the stars. Kane nodded. Welcome to galactic diplomacy, Captain Miller. Something tells me this is just the beginning of humanity's story in space.